I guess I'll mute myself now.
Okay. Well, everyone, I'm Elizabeth. This is self-made marketing. And what do I mean by self-made marketing? It's just marketing for yourself, as you can tell. But regardless if you go into traditional or non-traditional publishing. So we're pretty much going to talk about why it doesn't matter which route you take, you have to do marketing, at least in some way, some form or the other. Okay. I'm trying to find a way. Oh, I'll actually put it all small like that. So then, oops. Okay, so the outline here is we're going to talk about the publishing industry, kind of going in what is right for you. Are you more of the writer who would work better with the publisher, or should you honestly just take it out on your own? Because no matter what you do, it's going to just it's for you as yourself. It doesn't reflect on you as a writer if you have to do traditional or self-publishing or non-traditional or anything like that. It's just anyone can become famous in anything. It's all about marketing. And so whether you want to have a boss essentially or no boss, that's kind of up to you, right? And then after that, we're going to talk about the marketing mind. So imagine yourself having a writing cap on right now. So you have this thinking writing cap. So take that off and put on this marketing cap. It can be any color. It can be purple, blue, I don't care. But it's some kind of cap, right? It doesn't have to be a cap, but it has to be something because it's your marketing mind. So get in the mind of marketing. Marketing, while a lot of people get hesitant or afraid of it, it's just a different way of being creative and just making friends. It's a really simple way. You just want to network. Marketing is all about brand awareness. And we'll get into that in just a second, but marketing is different than sales. That marketing is, again, just making those friends, making those connections. Sales is making that, making that sale, getting that person to buy your book or your merchandise or something like that. So there is a fine difference. Marketing and sales teams will be different in businesses. So just kind of keeping that in mind. And then we're going to go into a marketing plan. So just a quick one, maybe some basic things to look out for. You could really spend a lot of time on a marketing plan. You could spend hundreds of hours, and it's just how time intensive you want to get into it. So don't worry too much, but we'll get into that. And then the final thing, I want everyone to just be okay asking for help. I know that sounds silly, but sometimes it gets really stressful, and sometimes you'll get focused on just a small little point in your progress, and it's the silliest thing, but it's taking you hours. And just don't be afraid to ask for help. So I'll share some resources with you on that. Okay, so the publishing industry. The number one misconception is that with a traditional publisher, you're going to do no marketing at all. You're going to just create the manuscript and then you're just going to hand it to your publisher. Unfortunately, that is not the case. That is a bygone era, right? That was the 1800s. Nowadays, there are way too many writers and, not way too many. That's the wrong word. It's too negative. There are just a lot of writers, right? And so I feel like it would almost be impossible for a publisher to give every single author that they take on all of as much marketing as if they were doing for Harry Potter or Game of Thrones or something like that. I don't think they would have the funds for it. I mean, the amount, even though they accept maybe less than 10% of authors, kind of if you're looking at publishers themselves, the traditional publishers, that's still a lot of people. That's 10% of the entire US population. That's a lot. So the reason that you have to do it, this is for when you're talking about publishing, you need to do your brand awareness. So you need to work on yourself. A publisher can't do all the marketing for you. And it doesn't work like that. And because it's you, it all comes down to you. And what do I mean by that? It's brand awareness, like what I've said before. If you're an author, you are an artist of some sort, and because of that, readers want to know about you. They want to know who you are. You could have all of the marketing from a publishing industry. You could have all the marketing from someone else, but just isn't going to be everything. Your reader is going to want to read about your blog. They're going to want to read about what you're doing on social media. They're going to want to read all about these things. And how can they do that if you're not there to make yourself relevant, or you're not there to give yourself any kind of platform? So while a publisher can help you, you're going to be working in bookstores. You're going to be talking at conferences. You're going to have to do that stuff because there's only so much a publisher can do, right? So how to publish. This is, again, it really is going to come down to how you want to work on and what works for you as a writer itself. I can't make that decision for you. But if you want to do self-publishing, it might be right for you, but it might not be, right? So we're going to go into some different pros and cons, what might work for you and what might not, in just a second. So with the self-publishing, a pro, you're going to get paid once a month, theoretically, right? So if you publish something, you put it out on Amazon, you're going to, after Amazon they do this 90-day thing. They might be like, oh, we take 90 days to give you your first thing, right? So after that, then you'll theoretically make as much money as possible. But if you're not doing marketing, right, that can be, that can not always be the case, right? But when you traditionally publishing, you won't get paid once a month. You'll sometimes get paid twice a year or something like that. And that's just more of a standard. But honestly, looking at it in that way, I feel like paying authors every single month would be very time consuming. Anyway, so con is with self-publishing, there's no free publishing, professional editing, there's no formatting, and no free cover art, right? So if you want to have a really nice cover and you're not an artist, how are you going to do that, right? You're going to have to buy an image, or you're going to have to commission someone out, and that can cost a lot of money. And I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people are against self-publishing, because there's a lot of money involved. While that is true, it really is going to depend on what you're thinking of, right? How can you, are you going to be someone who pays very little? Because you could pay almost next to nothing for self-publishing, or you could pay a lot of money, right? So it's just going to be it's a sliding scale, right? It's more of what works for you. It's on your terms and how it helps for you. Pro, you're going to have the control of the price and the cover. And this helps a lot because, if you're doing professional editing or any of these things, you need to, make up that cost. But honestly, I think that is also a con, right? Because if you make a price too high, and your cover is, maybe not exactly to your genre, that might turn off readers. If you're writing a romance and everyone in your field only has their book at $10, then most covers are within the warmer color range, like reds, purples, or reds, pinks, oranges, that sort of thing. And then you're doing, maybe blue could work. I don't know. It really would depend. But generally, you want to kind of keep in your genre, keep in that traditional sense, because readers are going to see that and go, oh, that's a romance, right? But then if it's too expensive, so there's a $10 book and yours is $17, no one's going to want to buy it, right? Because it's too expensive. So that's just something to kind of think about. You want to, if you do your price to cover, just make sure to go at what is traditional for your genre. One of the pros is publication can be instant. Say for instance, if you go on Amazon, if you can schedule it out when you're going to have your publication date. You can also just have it that day. And once they go through the process and they accept it and everything, your book's published. And that's great, right? Especially if you have an audience, especially if you like have revved up this excitement, right? If you have excitement for your book, you want publication to be instant. But I also think that's a con. If your publication is instant and there's no planning and you just have it out there, that's fine. But if there's absolutely no planning, you've built no anticipation, right? Because marketing is brand awareness. Marketing is that anticipation. People want, maybe they don't want is a strong word, maybe, but people want to be reminded, right, of something. And sometimes marketing can kind of get annoying because it's like, oh, like, I know this already. Please stop bugging me about it. But you do know about it because they keep bugging you. And so if you don't keep bugging people, people will forget about it, and then maybe you won't make that sale. And if your publication's instant and no one knew about it, you might not have, might have very few sales. Another thing is self-publishing. A nice thing is, which I really like, is that it's easy to implement changes. Right. So if you have an error, or if you're just, there's like a thought that you don't really vibe with, right? You're like, actually, I decided I don't like that idea anymore. Now you can change it. It's not a big deal. But, obviously if you're printing, that's kind of it, that's, if you've printed it, it stays in, that's just kind of stuck. But in traditional publishing, it is very hard to implement changes. So if you want something changed and the editor's like, oh, nope, sorry, then you just kind of have to deal with it, right? And then self-publishing, another thing is there are fewer sales. So there is this thing that if you self-publish compared to traditionally publishing, self-publishing, you're going to make money, right? But traditionally publishing, like this is the general stereotype, but traditional publishing, you're going to be famous, right? And it all happens because of marketing, and you're not going to make all that money. The reason why they say that is because you get to control your price and you don't have to do all these fees and stuff, right? But if you don't do marketing, or if you do marketing and you just don't have a wide enough platform, you might not have as many sales. And that is something that traditional publishing does end up having more of, because they have that wider reach, and so it's just easier for them. Hopefully with self-publishing we can kind of break that mold, but it's still hard, right? Because they're giants out there. Traditionally, they're the big business. They're the Walmart of books. Just kidding. Okay. Another nice thing is that every decision is yours. So that can be really nice if you have like an agenda, or if you have an idea for your story. You don't have to listen to any editor. You don't have to listen to any publisher. You want something out, you get it out. But that can also be really dangerous in the sense of like, if say you have your title and your title isn't very marketable, well, how are we, like people might not notice your title, or they might not, it's like little things like that. Even though it's good, like your editing, your formatting, and your cover art, maybe you liked all those things, but if you looked only in the writer's eye and not in the marketing eye, that might not benefit you when you're doing sales. Because again, the marketing is being brand awareness, but it does ultimately want to pair off, and you want to make that sale. So okay. Then the next one is great royalty rates. So this one's nice because with you don't have the fees of the publisher, you don't have the fees of the agent. Because when you're traditionally publishing and you do get an agent and you do get a publisher, they will take out those fees. And if you're printing a book, say you print it for $10, printing price is $5, let's say, and then you have to take 55% off for wholesale. You have to give the Barnes & Noble and like other bookstores, you have to give them a 55% discount, or you don't have to, but it's common courtesy and they expect it. And so if you don't do that, they might not sell your book. So now you're only making like what, $1.50. Yeah. And if publishers are, they take a percentage, and then agents take a percentage. Yeah, you're probably not going to make that much money, but if they have the wider platform and you make, say, sure, you're only making like 10%, maybe that's too high, but say you're making 10% of all your sales, but you're making 10 times more sales than you are, self-publishing. So there's like costs and benefits of each, right? And then again, if you self-publish, there's a chance for poor quality because you don't have to get the editing, because you don't have to do formatting. It's easier now than it used to be with formatting and so forth, but to make it nice. But there is that chance, because no one's really checking you, right? And so sometimes people expect it with self-publishing, which makes me annoyed. But you can't change everyone's mind in overnight, right? And then the nice thing is, this one I love, is that everyone can do it. No one, if you want to be a writer and you want to publish a book, self-publishing gives you the option, especially now more than ever, that you can do it. It doesn't matter. No one can stop you, right? Like that's, I don't know. I just think that's kind of magical in a way. It just makes me happy. Anyway, so now let's get into traditional publishing. So like I said, the distribution, and you have more exposure. It's just a lot easier with certain things, just because if they're a big company, they've dealt with things more often. They know the game, they know the people, they've done all the networking for you already. So that's I think the biggest pro, is that they essentially just save you time. Because you can do that with self-publishing. It's just a lot more work. Self-publishing is like you creating a business, and so you just have to do all of the jobs, and so it can wipe you out, but it gets easier over time. A con is that the publication can take 6 to 18 months, but I think that's a pro, because you need to plan, you need to build up that anticipation. You shouldn't publish instantly. You shouldn't publish the moment you've finished writing your book, right? You should take some time, make sure there's edits, make sure you've had beta readers, make sure that other people have seen it. And now, talk about it on social media. You want to have that time to build up that brand and, that awareness. And then again, this is a nice thing. So traditional publishers, they'll offer you in advance most of the time. They'll give you, like, sometimes a large one if they think your story's worth it. This isn't a thing. Just never pay for publishing unless you're doing self-publishing, right? But if you're going to a publishing house and they're saying, oh, it's going to be like $1,000 to do this, or $1,000, like, don't, I don't know. Those are like vanity presses. And I think they're trouble. I would highly advise against paying to publish unless you're self-publishing. That's a different story. But if you're going to a vanity press, I would avoid them at all costs. Cons, pricing ebooks. So publishers, when they traditionally publishing, sometimes they'll price your ebook really high, which bugs me, because I'm like, it's an ebook. It's electric. There's no printing. Like, I get wanting to make the printed books a little bit more expensive, right? Because you're doing that printing cost. But ebooks, they're like, it's just transferring, memory, right? It's not even. But so that's a con. So it's a little bit annoying. Pros, that they edit, format, and do cover. They do all of that for you, so you don't have to worry about that. It does suck because, if you really like something, they might be like, nope, we hate it. So never, if you traditionally publish, don't be heart set on a title. Like, if you're like, I really need this title, well, you can definitely, but just express your interest on why you really want this to be your title. The publisher in the end will have the final say, unless you want to pull out from that publisher, but they'll end up having the final say. So yeah, that's the con with that. And again, like I was saying, it's just there's limited control over that cover art and title. I've heard of people unfortunately hating their cover art sometimes because they're like, the publisher chose this, and they don't really have a lot of say. But I mean, what do you do at that point, right? Because you either go self-publish or go to a different publisher, but sometimes it's hard to find a different publisher, right? And then with traditional publishing, if you do get picked as one of the people who they're like, hey, this person's worth a bit, then they'll do a lot of marketing, right? Then they'll give you all that power for you. You might get like a TV show. You'll do all this stuff because they'll have that money, right? They'll do it for you. But again, that's to say if they actually do give you their marketing power, right? If they want to invest in you, because it's one thing for them to want to buy your work and and sell it in a bookstore, and it's another thing if they want to actually post you up on billboards or have you up as a big sign in Barnes Noble. So there's just different tiers, unfortunately. Okay, and so that's kind of where the pros kind of stop with traditional publishing, because the next thing is, you get paid royalties twice a year, which I don't think is bad necessarily, because it's, you got the advance, right? You got that advance from the traditional publisher, and now you're getting royalties, and assuming, you're getting quite a bit of money. But again, if that's your livelihood, that does end up kind of hurting you, right? This one really bothers me because I'm just a control freak, maybe. But they don't involve you in book plans. So if they want to do certain plans for your book, like say the title or say like a book launch type thing, then there's a chance they'll just be like, oh well, you're just the writer, right? We want to do the book plans. We want to plan this all. So I don't like that they sometimes will take control of that. Oops, let's see. Okay, and then the other thing which is too bad is that it is difficult to implement changes, which I don't understand. This one bothers me a little bit because I don't understand why it should be so difficult. Especially with ebooks, because if you find something, then they can go through. But I guess it's just going through the pipeline, going through the business where they, it's not just one person who's changing it. It's you telling your publisher, your agent, who's telling someone, and so it can sometimes take a while. And then the last one is that traditional publishing is just hard to break into. Like I was saying, there's less than, well, I think the stats might have changed last time that I looked into it, but it was about 10% of authors in the US will get accepted in traditional publishing. So, and the idea where it's also, you're doing like, you're getting an agent, so you have to query an agent, you have to make sure that they accept you, and then you have to make sure that, so the agent sells for you to a publisher, and then the publisher has to decide, and they go to multiple publishers until a publisher finally goes, hey, actually, I like you. And so, that can take several years to get all of that together. So that requires patience, because I think anyone with enough patience can definitely get into traditional publishing. It's just writing the right query letter, tailoring it towards your genre and your agent without taking away from what is important to your story, and then just just waiting, because it sometimes can take a long time. I know there's one author, she's a best-selling author, but she was telling me that it took her 3 years to get an agent, just to get an agent. So just what are you, I guess, what are you willing to wait for? Do you want to do self-publishing, traditional publishing? Yeah. So that's just one thing you're just gonna have to think about with, which one benefits you more. You can do both. There's nothing wrong with doing both. Like if you, I've heard sometimes where you shouldn't self-publish because it hurts your chances as a traditional publisher or getting traditionally published, but that's not like, that's far from the truth, because if you self-publish and then you're like, actually, I want to go traditional publishing now because I didn't like that, right? It was too hard. That just shows that you're marketable to a publisher. Then it shows that you are willing to foot some of the work or like some of the work, and that's really important to publishers, because that shows that you're going to make them money. At the end of the day, while it is all about like stories, it's also about if you can make them money. And so if you've been published in things, if you have awards, if you are in communities, you can become really enticing to publishers. So again, like that's something you're going to have to decide if it's right for you. But no two people are the same, and no two books require the same attention and love. And honestly, maybe neither option works, because there is a thing is hybrid. It's different than vanity press. A hybrid, will tailor, like take different things, right? Like maybe they'll do your formatting and your editing and stuff, but you have to do all your marketing, right? And then they get like a profit from like your sales too. So that there's like different things like that. But yeah, again, just don't pay thousands of dollars for a publisher. I strongly advise against it. Okay, so now we've gotten into that. Is there any questions on that before we get into the marketing mind? Okay, cool. So next, just again, imagine that you have a marketing mind cap, your cap of marketingness. And I want you to kind of think about what is the most important thing with marketing, right? Like I've talked about this already. It's about, brand awareness, but it's more than that. It's also word of mouth. So word of mouth in any business is going to be some of the highest some of the highest sales. As you can see here, this is 20 to 50% of all purchasing decisions come from word of mouth recommendations. This is why reviews are really important. And then 57% of customers will avoid local businesses because they have negative reviews online. And it's silly because you shouldn't just be all about reviews, right? Because how can you show a customer you are you're worth purchasing your book from if you are just barely starting out and you don't have any reviews? How do you convince them? So it's hard, and that's why us writers, we really need to work together, and we need to read each other's work, review each other's work, because it really does spend, even just like one good review can change the mind of someone saying like, okay, maybe I actually will buy this. I know sometimes I'll go on Amazon and if I've never bought from I've never bought from this particular seller and there's no reviews on it, not a single one, I'm like, oh, is this not good? I just need something. I don't know. So I actually don't always buy from them. And I know that sounds bad, but it's like, what do you do, right? Especially if you don't know them. And then, so even if there's just like one review, and I really want this item, then I'll feel like, okay, I can buy it. But yeah, those reviews, man, it's insane how much it really matters. But again, so what is word of mouth, right? It's the, customers talking to other customers about you. Again, it's like thinking about reviews, 5-star ratings, recommendations, the list goes on. It's just people want to feel like they can trust you, and they can't trust you if they know nothing about you. And that's, again, why we have to work together to show, hey, we're all writers, we all matter. this reader over here doesn't know us, so let's write review, let's read our stories, write reviews, and honest reviews. I'm not, saying that you should just write 5-star for everyone, but just give everyone a chance so that we we make it easier, because your readers are your, they are going to be your marketing team in a sense, right? These are, they're referrals. The referrals convert 3 to 5 times higher at a higher rate than other marketing tactics, because it's all about trust. People need to know that, oh, my sister said that this was a really, a good company, or this is a really good book. Okay, well, now I know. Even if I didn't really know from the description, I trust my sister, so I'm going to do it. And then I'll tell someone, And so you definitely want to work on word of mouth. So, but again, word of mouth, it's friends, reviews, 5-star ratings, recommendations, and the list goes on. Okay. So now going more into this, who is your audience? I want you to now you've gotten your word of mouth. Now you know who you're going to review, but now what do you do? Who are the people that are going to be your marketing team? Who are going to be your readers, right? These are the people you want these referrals to be, people who really, they love your work. So you need to think about your audience. These can be people, as broad as millennials or baby boomers, right? Or it can be really refined. I want it to be, for instance, for my book, it is 20-something females who like sci-fi. And so obviously I want males to also read my book. I want teenagers to read my book. I want older adults to read my book. Of course, you can, I think you want everyone to have the option, but marketing isn't, marketing is about honing in on your particular thing, because now you can have that purpose. You can have a very specific statement for your readers. So it personalizes it, because you can sell to everyone, but you can't personalize for everyone, right? So you just want to make sure you have that in your mind with that. Okay, and then this is another one. So why should someone buy your book? I know it's because it's great, but at the same time, what is the reason why someone should buy your book? Is it because they want a certain genre, or what, right? Let's go through. So there are a lot of reasons why people tend to buy books. For instance, it meets a need, right? Let's see. Sorry, I was just looking at my notes. So think about as in self-help, historical, guilty pleasure. Books are no different from any other medium, and as such, people require different things, right? The next thing is people give it as a gift. According to Sourcebooks CEO Dominique Rocca, I don't know if I said his name right, 25% of trade books are bought as books, as gifts. 43% of books purchased as gifts are for children under 12. Understanding the reason why a person buys a book, may enhance your book marketing tactics, right? Or practice, because in reality, people making purchase decisions, they do that based both on logic and emotion. Another one is that the book is recommended. Again, that's word of mouth, right? And then the final one is that the reader knows the author. And this does not mean that they're, their neighbor, right? They can be someone that they know because they've heard a speech, or they listen to their podcast, or, they read their blog. It's anything like that. Readers, again, this is that marketing point, because a publisher, maybe you could have a ghostwriter, I guess. But generally, you want to be able to be that person on the front line that the readers can develop that relationship with, because they want to know you. They don't want to know your ghostwriter, right? They want to learn about you as a person. So then the last one I want to talk about on the marketing mind is, how do you compared to other authors. And I don't want you to compare yourself as in like, oh, they're better or you're, not as good or something. I want you to compare yourself in the same way that another company compares their product to a different product. You want to be able to see like why, how do they interact with their readers like any other company, right? How are you going to reach your readers? How does your competition reach their readers? What unique ways do they do it? Do, someone else in the sci-fi field, let's see, someone big in our community, they're like, for instance, okay, how about this? We'll do just a general term. Patrick Rothfuss, he wrote Name of the Wind. He's a fantasy writer. And how does he communicate with his community? He writes blogs, right? He does interviews. He goes on social media. He continues a relationship with his fellow fans, and he's built like this big niche of a group. I can never say that word, so I'm just gonna always stutter it. But he built this group, and now sometimes I don't know if the readers are so nice because they're like, "Where's your book?" But at the same time, like there are some diehard fans, and it's because he built that relationship. And so you want to do that same thing, right? So if you're a fantasy writer, you're probably going to do, you're not going to copy him, but you're going to see what he does and see how it can work for you, right? Because anyone can do interviews, so find people you want to interview. Maybe you can interview him. There's no harm in trying. There's no harm in asking people, right? Or you can go on a panel if you have a cool, topic that you can talk about. Something about maybe if you're a horror writer, like if you are, how do you get into the mind of horror, right? Maybe you could have a whole panel or a whole workshop on that. Do presentations. If you go on writing conferences, do these things. It's not going to make you money at first. Marketing is never about that. It's until you get to the sales part. It's all about just building that relationship. And I'm just going to keep pounding that into your head. But it's first thinking, getting that audience, getting people to care about you, and then eventually they're like, oh, okay, I want to buy this. I want to buy your book because I like you and I like what you have to offer. Okay, again, who are your competitors? Get to know your competition and identify your competitive edge. So those are the big things when you're looking at your competition. Again, you never want to compare yourself in a negative way because we're all writers. We're all on the same team. We should work together. But again, there is that competition, the competitive edge. And so just know how you compare with that. Okay. See, he's my marketing plan helper, this little doggy. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is your marketing plan. Okay, these are things we're going to talk about. So social media, SEOs, email marketing, content marketing, and SMART goals. Okay. So these are some basic things that you should have in your plan. Again, you can get really intensive into it, and there are some things with even social media that we won't have that much time to get into. But just know that these are the bones. This is the meat. This is the stuff you really need to start with, right? At least for online marketing. Okay, so social media. Engaging with your readers is vital to the success of your book and as you as an author, right? Because your readers are online. I know I'm like I'm having a focus right now on the online marketing, but honestly, that's where our world is going, especially now with COVID. I mean, if something like this happens again, hopefully it doesn't, but if something like this happens again, you need to be ready for online marketing. And one of those places is social media. I know a lot of us don't necessarily like social media, but I would strongly suggest having some kind of social media presence. You don't have to have it on Twitter. You don't have to have it on Facebook. But where are your readers? Think about that. If you're a YA author, young adult author, you probably want to be on TikTok. You want to be on Instagram. If you target moms, maybe you want to go on Pinterest, right? And these are just like stereotypical type things, but I would advise, that's, statistically, right? you know, that's where these readers are. And if you're like 20 something, 30 something, you're probably on Facebook or Twitter, right? But again, like these are some pretty strong percentages, right? Like 53% of people on Twitter recommend companies on their products of their tweets. So if you're not on Twitter and you don't see these tweets, you're losing out on potential advertising, right? Because if someone says like, this book was so great, blah, 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 you can't retweet that or you can't post that up on your blog. And so that can harm you, right? And then another thing, you know, right, I won't look at all these things. If you guys want me to send this to you, I can. But, you know, 46% of online users count on social media when making a purchase decision. That's kind of scary in a way, right? Because like people, if you don't have social media or like if you don't have some presence, people might not get your book or you know, they won't feel like you have a way to communicate with them. And especially being an artist, being a writer, you know, how are they supposed to build that relationship with you? I mean, sure, they can go on your blog, but what if they don't know how to get onto your blog? Usually when I find writers, or authors, I find them first, maybe on their website and their social media. But some people only find them on social media and that's how they get their blog, right? So again, you don't have to go on social media, but just know where your readers are. But social media is like it's like one of the cheapest ways to market. So I would strongly advise to do it, right? Because it's cost effective. I mean, most social media is free. In fact, I think you can do almost all of it free. There are add-ons that you can pay for, but free is nice, right? Especially when you're still starting out. People, you know, there's better customer satisfaction because you can see the reviews, you can see followers, and then enhanced SEO rankings. And we'll get into SEO in just a second. Again, just think about who your readers are, which social media platform is going to be right for you, because you do not need to be on all of them. That's overwhelming. You do not want to, I think it would be almost worse to be on all of them because you're not being able to focus in and you're not giving enough of your energy. Because honestly, there are some, you know, there are jobs specifically, like careers specifically aligned for social media, being a social media expert. You can make a lot of money actually as being a social media expert. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's a whole full-time job. So don't stress yourself out, and it's because it can take a lot out of you. So just focus, just do one or two social media platforms, maybe a third one, but really you don't need to do more than that. Okay, and so we're gonna breeze through this just because of time, but kind of going into some social media analytics. So if you do end up doing some social media, you can kind of, or if you do social media, I would advise doing analytics. And analytics, they're just ways to show like, oh, how many people liked your post or how many people are engaging. The unique visitors means like different types of visitors, right? And then this is like more just Facebook. So if you have a Facebook page, right, it'll show like, oh, I have 150 Facebook page views and it's 10% up, right? My video got 100 views, or, you know, there's a post engagements. And engagements, you want engagements over impressions. And impressions aren't really on this page. Reach, I think, is the impressions, I think, actually on this. But engagements just shows people are clicking on it, people are commenting. And impressions or reach is just people pausing for a second to look at it and then moving on. And if people have more questions on analytics and how to get into that, I can talk to you separately. Twitter analytics, everyone has, like, if you go on your Twitter, you can find that just on your analytics as well. Because the Facebook was just for Facebook pages. And then they have the analytics. I think there might be something for groups too. But then, yeah, and so you can see like the top tweet. Oh yeah, it got, I can't really read that. I think it says 101 impressions or something. And then 3 engagements, top mention. So it's just, these are things to be aware of because then you can tailor your posts to be the most popular, and then you end up getting more people to like you and more people to retweet or follow or tag or reshare. And you can kind of, it just shows you can do different dates. There's a lot into it. So if it kind of confuses you, don't worry. I can answer more questions later on that. But let's get into SEOs. So SEOs, it's wonderful and confusing and frustrating and lovely, because SEOs, search engine optimization, is a way for you, when you go on Google or you go on Bing, it's for you to be like, to be able to find anything, right? You know, how do you find anything about writing? You probably Googled it or you went on Facebook, right? But those are all about keywords, SEOs. So, but there is a difference, right? So there's the SEO and there's SEM. SEO is free. So it just depends on keywords, on like graphs, infographics, and like different things like that. There's, you know, there's cache, and there's like stuff you can put in your code. Basically though, with SEO, if you write a blog or if you write something on your website, it's easy to, you know, you write it enough, Google spiders are going to see that. And especially if it's a long blog post, like 2,000 words, that shows that you're an expert. And if you have a whole bunch of blogs on that one type of topic, like your topic is all about writing, or your topic is all about food, and it's a very particular food, then Google's going to go, this is, I think, why if you ever like look up a recipe and like the recipe is like at the very end and there's like 1,000 or 2,000 words and you're like, why is there so many words? It's because I think my theory on that particular thing is just because it's higher in the ranking, because Google sees the higher word volume and the amount of words of like your keyword. So like writing or something, if there's more of that, then Google will be like, oh, people who are writers or who like tomato soup want this recipe, or, you know, something like that. So that's all it is. It's just finding it, and it's a free way. You can do it on your website, on, your social media. You could even Google your name and see what kind of keywords come up on that. Cause like, what is your name attached to? I would advise getting more places that your name can be up. And then if you have, the more websites you have, not you owning, but the more websites that you have communicated with, that you've blogged on, or that other blogs or like websites have talked about you, or things like that. It makes it so you become more relevant. And then it makes it easier for the Google spiders to find you. And then SEM, what do I mean by that? It's search engine marketing. And that one is like SEO, but it's those paid ads that you see up on Google. And it's the same with Amazon, right? Like if people have those paid ads, right? So it costs money, but it does include SEO as well. So it's just like a mix of like this increased visibility through organic search, but also through advertising. SEO is the best. I know it's like, it can get really complicated, but just know that just writing a whole bunch of things about your thing, I said that so eloquently, but writing a whole bunch of stuff about that particular thing will just make it so it's easier to see. Because there are too many writers out there, there are too many blogs out there, there's too many things out there. How is someone supposed to find you on Google if you don't have anything about your subject, right? And then, so here's the SEO checklist, right? So you're going to have stuff on your page, which is like a main keyword. It could be in your URL. And so that's like your website, right? It could be in your subheadlines. It could be in your title. There's like conflicting theories on like, you don't want to have too much on one area. And you don't want it to sound robotic, because now Google has like made, punishments for that. So it's like annoying. And I can share more research on this as well. But then also having relevant images. And so images, especially if you get them from like free websites, like say like Pexels or something, you want to have a way that people can click back and go back to that place. Just because it was free, and so you want to share that with people. But also, if it connects to that website, now your website is connected there, and it just like it's like having a lot of telephone lines, right? And so you're adding more communication, and so more telephone lines mean that people can call you more. I don't know if that's true, but just imagine that's true. I mean, it's true in this case. I don't know if it's true for phone lines itself. Anyway. And then offline, if there, again, are any external links. So are you doing guest blogs on places? Like if you published a book, maybe you want to, you're talking about a content of your book. Maybe it's like sci-fi. Oh, it's about an alien race. And so you want to talk about that. And then you want to link back to your website. So then readers can go to your website. So that's a really good way. And then just kind of relevant content as well, just like linking back to you. And then again, if you have like technical stuff, is going to be your social media. Social media is really easy for, people to find you. That's why when you search up, probably one of the first places they're going to find your name is going to be a social media platform. So just notice that if you Google your name, what comes up first, right? And it's just because they're pretty big, so they have a lot of connections, a lot of Google spiders, and so it makes it easier. And also you have a lot of stuff on there. So that's just something to be aware of on that. And again, there's so much, we could talk for days about SEO. Anyway, but let's get into email marketing. Okay, so email marketing is another way that you can kind of do keywords, but it's different because you're emailing people, you're probably doing newsletters. You want to get these emails from them because then you can like tailor. It's kind of like social media in that sense where you can tailor stuff to your readership, but it's focused in on them. And you can see email marketing, if you can get readers on that, because it's just, getting people to sign up, and subscribing, it makes ROI, $40 compared to these others. So ROI is a return on investment. And so it's just, pretty high compared to like SEO, which is at only $22. And then this one right here with the pie graph or the pie chart, it's I got this from they're more like a specific event marketing channel. So this is going to be specific to them, but email marketing really worked for them at 46% compared to other types of mail, paid search, organic, other direct mail. For me personally, I think it works for some people, but I prefer my success. I think comes from social media and blogs, but I think it's going to be different for everyone because your readers may not necessarily always be on social media, or they may not be on blogs so much. They might want to do email marketing. So it's just something to be aware of with email. Okay, so just another thing on email marketing is just more statistics because I love statistics. But so this is just some good information, right? So click-through rate is just like clicking in, like opening it up. Conversion, bounce rate. So bounce rate is if it was a fake email pretty much, and like delivery rate. So the most effective the most effective emails, they're going to be personalized. That's why you always want to have an email that says a name, but please do not spell the name wrong, because that is like even worse. That's like worse than if you had not said their name at all. And then it just, saying again, like return on investment. It's just how much money you make back. You're making, 59% compared to 21% on social media or ads or video. Because you have to think about, in email, people subscribe to you knowing that while you're not always going to sell to them, but you might sell sometimes. But on social media, people aren't necessarily thinking about buying stuff. At least in my experience, it feels like that, where, on Facebook, I want to look at people's posts, or I want to scroll and watch puppy videos, right? I'm not in the mood necessarily to buy, but if I'm on email, I might be more in like my buying mind. I don't know. It's less playful, I guess. I don't know. And so it makes sense to me why social media would be lower than email marketing, because social media is less about sales, right? It's more about the networking side of getting that, just focusing on the brand awareness. Whereas emails, it is marketing, getting that brand awareness, but there is sales involved with some of it, because there's the soft sale and the hard sale. Softs and like the nurturing sequence, which is like, how are you doing, and like, let's share something. So that's more marketing. And then there's like, so email marketing is more like marketing and sales, but social media is more just marketing. Okay. Your next thing on your marketing plan is content marketing. I know it looks like I'm obsessed with dogs and cats. I kind of am. But anyway, content marketing is blogs, our blogs, right? So it's a really easy way to get SEO. It's a really easy way to show relationship, like show that you're a person and make people trust you more. I like when people have the option of having a blog. Maybe I don't have time to always read the blog, but I like that option because they actually cared enough to write something down, and they actually have a passion for that. And if you're a writer and you don't have a blog, I don't know. It just seems like why wouldn't you, right? It doesn't mean that you are any less. It's just, as a reader, I'm expecting that. And so if I don't find it, I might get confused, or might be like, oh, well, am I not on the right thing? Right. And so it's just, but that's me adding my own personal thing. And, but yeah, so here's more stats, right? So the leads from inbound content marketing is just how much you're getting in, right? And if you have a blog, you're probably going to make, right? And this is just $346 compared to $135. And again, this is just like a sort, like this particular company that was getting it. So, and then 61% of consumers say they feel better about a company that delivers custom content. And so it's like blogging, just like saying like, hey, if you are a writer, you could give them sneak peeks about your book, so you could drum up excitement. So you don't have to always do stuff about like how to write a newsletter or something. You could do something where it's just like completely creative and fun. You could do some, just like a story, like a story of the day, story of the week type thing. So yeah, your blog can be anything. Okay, so last thing is I want to talk about SMART goals. SMART goals are, you should have these, if you're not going to do anything with the other marketing, just have SMART goals, because it keeps you organized. So this is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So what does that mean? Let's make an example. So say I want to hit the top 10 on Amazon. Okay, so how do I do that? So now that was my specific thing. But I haven't found a timely. So I need to make that more focused, right? So I want to hit top 10 in 6 months. Okay, so now I have I have a goal, right? I have a time limit. Is it achievable for me? Well, it may be achievable if I can get the right readers, right? So maybe that was too broad of a thing. So now I need to focus in on, okay, maybe I need to get, let's say I have to get 1,000 people to buy my book. Okay, that's a lot of people, right? Maybe it's a little bit less, more. Amazon is not so much, but that's, and if you want to keep that, you're going to have to keep getting more people, right? So, but say I just want to get 1,000 readers, then I need to probably make I need to probably make 100 readers. Yeah, I guess 100 readers every 2 weeks, right? And then that, if I'm doing my math right. Anyway, so, but you're just doing that way, and then it's achievable to me, maybe, if I'm going to conferences, right? If I'm talking to people all the time. So 6 months might be too soon to get 1,000 people, but that's like starting from scratch. Maybe I know 1,000 people and I just have no idea that I know that they're willing to buy that. And so you just have to start talking to people. Be realistic, see what works for you. Because I mean, you don't have to be in the top 10 to be an awesome author. You can be someone where you're like, I got 50 new people to read my book, 50 new people that you had no idea existed 5 days ago or something, or a month ago or 2 months ago or something. That's, I don't know. I guess I'm one of those people where it's like, if I could get just like one person, just like completely random that I've never met, read my book, enjoy it, and review it, that's just, I don't know, that's special, right? That's what writing's all about, right? It's just changing at least one person's life. So, start small and then just slowly branch out, because you just want to make sure you have a specific thing, and you need to make sure it's measurable. So while you have that broad thing like the top 10, you need to make it smaller so you can get each mini goal. So you're not like discouraged if you can't get the top goal all at once. You want to do small things, it's step by step. Make sure it's achievable to you and your lifestyle. If you don't go to conferences all the time, or you don't talk to a lot of people all the time, then maybe 1,000 people in 6 months is just not feasible. But maybe it is because you're online all the time. So you have to make sure that it works for you and realistic, right? If it's relevant to your life, and then timely. Put it in a specific timeline. We all need deadlines. If you don't have a deadline, you probably won't do it as quickly as possible, right? That's just, it's just funny how procrastination works. So always give yourself a deadline. So that was your marketing plan. I know I breezed through that, but there's a lot that we can talk about in that. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask now or later. Just let me know. But again, like I said, marketing is just making friends. It's just being friendly and just showing people that you care and that you just want to change. You just want to add readers. You want to create readers. You want to build relationships, right? And hopefully marketing can lead to sales, but it's not always the case. And I know it sounds, sometimes it blends together and stuff, and it gets kind of confusing, but they are two separate things. And you can't have one without, or I mean, you can, but you want one, you want both, right? You want to have both in that. So, and then just like one of the last things I want to talk about here is that it's okay to ask for help. So if you are stressing out about something and you are just pulling your hair out, please ask for help. I one time, not too long ago, was formatting a children's book, as some of you know, and it was just it was a little bit of a nightmare because I just couldn't figure it out. I don't understand. Well, I didn't at the time, didn't understand why it wasn't working. And I was so stubborn and I would not ask for help. And it really added time. And if I would have just been willing to ask for help in the beginning, it would have been a lot easier instead of scrambling at the end. So, but you don't have to just ask people for help. You can also look for books, go to workshops, obviously talk to other writers. And then the attend conferences is for quills. But so yeah, just having, a marketing specialist, just attend conferences, anything that gets people around you that maybe it's even on a forum online and they've talked about, or they've dealt with something and they've had to do that 4-hour project, or it took them 4 hours to figure this out. But it's like really easy for them now because it was just that small little thing. And if you could just ask them, or if they, opened up to you, maybe that could save you time, and vice versa. If you have like that ability to help people, definitely help them. Yeah, so those are the questions. That's it. So does anyone have any questions or anything?
I did. I had one.
Okay, cool.
Back to just because of traditional publishing.
Yeah.
When it comes to traditional publishing, is it practice for an agent or a publisher, say like a Doubleday or whatever, if they're big enough, do they actually give you projects as opposed to you just coming up with your own stuff all the time? Would they ever
Oh,
approach you with an idea or something they've been developing, just haven't gotten off the ground?
and like you're saying is if they've already had you as a client, or like you're already
Yeah,
their
yeah.
author.
If you have a reputation with them.
Yeah, yeah, I'm that I think that can totally happen because I know this one author who now does Star Wars books too for this specific publisher. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think it depends on the publisher and it depends on your genre, but I don't see that. I don't see why that wouldn't be a possibility for you if you were interested. If you were, yeah, if you wanted to do that.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? No?
No questions for me.
Okay. Cool.
No, we're good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. This was
Yes. Thank
great.
you. It was awesome.